are going to be recording, so I started the recording for this, and then we'll stick it up on our page for anybody who's not able to make the meeting. All right. Well, since we are recording, if anybody missed anything, we can go ahead and go back to that. But for today's meeting, we have James Otterstein here from Rock County, and he's going to give an update on the Rock County loan program that is opening up starting tomorrow for small businesses. So he's going to give some information about that. And then Jason and I will give some updates on what we have going on, and then we'll open it up for any community discussion. If you do have questions on the loan program, though, you can ask those during your presentation. Are you fine with that, James?
Yep.
So yeah, James, if you want to give some information on the loan program and start with that, that would be.
Well, good morning. I'm going to apologize on the front end. My voice is really shouty. I've been dealing with a severe case of laryngitis. So if I have to cough and throw a cough drop in for an intermission, that's what's cooking. So in any event, what I'm going to talk about today is the Rock County COVID-19 Emergency Small Business Loan Fund. So on the 9th of April, the County Board of Supervisors approved the creation and the development of this particular loan fund. And so this loan fund is specifically designed to assist small businesses in Rock County that are experiencing financial difficulties that are directly attributed to the COVID-19 pandemic. The maximum loan amount to any eligible applicant will be capped at $20,000, and the proceeds from that loan will be weighted towards small businesses that are seeking bridge and or long-term financing, permanent working capital to help stabilize, sustain, or strengthen, and more importantly, restart their operations. So I'm going to get into the eligibility and how the actual program works. And by all means, if there are questions, I will field those at the end. So in terms of the eligibility side of the equation, the program is open to all for-profit small businesses in Rock County with 20 or fewer employees, as well as those that have 12 months of consecutive business history in the county, those that have revenues less than $1 million annually, those that also are considered in good standing, and those that can document at least a 25% decrease in revenue due to the COVID-19 related impacts. Funding is going to be prioritized, though, for those service producing businesses, particularly those that are independent, i.e. non-franchise, as well as businesses that support the hospitality and business services sectors, respectively. Additional priority is going to be weighted towards businesses that are seeking bridge financing, as well as those that are looking to go ahead and apply for other source of funding, whether it comes from the Fed, the states, and or other sources that might be out there. There's a host of ineligible business activities. I'm not going to go through every single one, but suffice to say, hobby and part-time and home-based businesses are not eligible. There's other ineligible businesses behind that as well. The loan amounts themselves and the terms and uses. So again, to reiterate, the maximum loan amount is going to be capped at $20,000. Interest rates will be capped at 2%, and loans will have a 6-month deferral period for both principal and interest payments from the date of the loan's distribution. The maximum term of the loan will not exceed 5 years or 60 months. Not that every loan will have that term, but for those that need it, that will be the maximum amount of the term. There will be no prepayment penalties, no origination fees, no application fees. However, month of late fees, as well as loan default processes will apply. Collateral is going to be required for this, and any individual that has more than 20% ownership in the business will be required to provide a personal guarantee. Now, the loan proceeds themselves, again, can be used for either stabilizing, sustaining, strengthening, or restarting a business. What does that mean? Again, going to prioritize it towards payroll, mortgage, rent, utilities, and or supplier and vendor obligations. It can also be used for purchase order fulfillment, equipment purchases, job creation / retention and or training activities, and again, a variety of uses that help kind of stabilize and sustain and get the company back on its feet. Ineligible activities, though, we can't take our proceeds and pay off other obligations or other debts. It can't be used for paying owner salaries or investor dividends. And certainly there's a whole host of other ineligible uses in terms of the funds themselves. The application review process is as follows. So assuming nothing strange happens in the next 24 hours, The application portal should be open by the time everyone gets up and gets started tomorrow morning. And so the actual application online is going to be at this location. The website is ROCKSB as in boy loan.com. So all one word, ROCKSBloan.com. It'll open up tomorrow morning. And the goal is to have roughly a 3-week turnaround time frame from the time that a application is submitted in full to the time that a decision is rendered. There's a 7-member loan fund committee that actually the appointments will be made tonight at the county board meeting. And the goal is to have that particular committee meet on a frequent basis to process these in a very expeditious manner. In terms of the actual information that applicants are going to have to provide, very straightforward, not dissimilar to what the feds and or the state are requiring, or for that matter, if anybody's taken out a recent home equity line or perhaps a business loan. Very basic information, right? General information about, where the company's located at, the organizational status, the type of industry, all that basic stuff. Then on the business summary side of the equation, they have to be able to, again, answer in the affirmative on kind of those leading questions that I documented. Are you a for-profit, non-franchise, independently owned business in Rock County? Have been in business for at least 12 consecutive months? Do you have less than 20 or fewer employees, so on and so forth. And then, there's some tables that are going to have to be filled out, very basic. As of March 1st of 2020, what was your head count in terms of your staffing, full-time, part-time, temporary, contracted, including the business owner into that count? And then at the date of the application, so if somebody is applying on the 24th or the 25th or the 26th of April, what is your current business head count again at that point? Then they're going to have to be able to supply information on, again, that 25% decrease in revenue. So basically January to April 2020. They're going to have to compare it to January to April of 2019. And for those that have longer histories behind them, we're going to ask them to supply the same information for 2018 and 17 accordingly. Again, very basic top level information. Drop it in the table and move forward. Then on the financial resources tab, we're going to ask folks if they've applied for other types of funding during COVID-19, and if so, to identify how much they've applied for, whether the funds have actually been received, and the uses of those funds. Much like the federal funds, we are not going to allow the double dip, meaning if you applied for, payroll protection on this side of the equation, you can't come back and ask for payroll protection on our side of the equation. So we're going to delineate and make sure that folks aren't using, multiple sources of public funding for the same type of use. Then, there's basically some, primary applicant contact information. Again, who's the individual that actually submitted the application on behalf of the company? Are they the owner versus just, the operations manager, so on and so forth. And then there's documentation upload where you're going to have to provide, basically financial documents and other things such as your W-9, taxpayer identification number, and copies of your driver's license and those types of things. We just want to make sure that everyone that submits information is legit all the way around. And then clearly the loan request itself, how much are you asking for? How are you going to use the funds? Again, the use of the funds, and describe how are you going to help identify and or adjust operations moving forward. The reality is I don't think anyone predict how business is going to be on a normal definition, because that normal definition, I think, will continually shift and become very fluid as we move forward. So what was true 6 months ago may not be true 3 months from now or 6 months from now. So we want to make sure that companies have given some thought about this, and then obviously not only put that on paper, but then what does that look like as you pencil that out for your projections for the remainder of this particular calendar year. So very basic information, the same type of information that one could expect to have to share with their local lender and or that they've already shared with the feds through one of the SBA products. And again, upload the information. We're hoping to have about a 3-week turnaround time frame. One thing that's going to be perhaps unique or different from perhaps other public programs is these won't be hard copy checks and loan disbursements and loan repayments. These will all be done through an electronic format that will accelerate the release as well as the receipt of funds, as well as will create a very transparent and less hand-holding on the accountability side of the equation. So if somebody has a rent payment that's due to a particular landlord, the way that we are intending to approach this, instead of releasing the funds to the actual applicant and they turn around and write the check to the landlord, we're going to attempt to go ahead and accelerate and compress that schedule by just let us know who the landlord is. We'll go ahead and load that into the system, and we will wire those funds accordingly to that particular landlord. So again, we're trying to use technology. We're trying to use other best practices to accelerate the particular process, and more importantly, to make it as painless as any type of financial related vehicle can be. So that in a nutshell is the program. The program will stay open as long as there are funds. And so what does that mean? So there's up to $1 million that have been set aside for this particular activity. And so the loan applications will be accepted on a rolling basis, meaning we'll continue to accept those as long as there are non-committed funds. Once the funds have been exhausted, it'll be a matter of policy at the county board level, whether there will be any type of extension on behalf of the program, and or whether there are any other funds from different sources, whether they'd be local, philanthropic, fill in the blank, that may or may not be used to recapitalize the fund if in fact that is a need. So as long as there are funds in the program, we'll keep the fund active. And clearly, once the fund is depleted, that information will be shared accordingly. And then instead of releasing new funds out there, it'll be a combination of identifying any potential new sources that might be available at some point, as well as obviously servicing those loans that are out there. All of the parameters that I went through are subject to change because the loan fund committee could make adjustments once the program is up and running. I don't envision any major wholesale changes during the first couple months of operation, but it's conceivable at month 3 or 4 or 6, again, just to throw out some hypothetical benchmarks, that there could be some minor adjustments. So one of the adjustments might be that if there's a very well documented need that is being unmet, either by our program or by other programs, that certainly is a topic that could be taken under advisement by the loan fund committee, and they could choose, if they wish, to go ahead and accommodate and incorporate that particular need into the program. So one of those ideas might be, for instance, if the nonprofit entities continue to struggle, meaning there isn't adequate resources to help them out, perhaps at some point the loan fund committee might be in a position to entertain including that as an eligible use, because right now it's considered ineligible. And again, those decisions are to be determined. So just want to put that out there that, that there might be some tweaks and modifications to the information that I just went through, but certainly that remains to be determined. And if and when those situations arise, that information will be made public accordingly. So I'll go ahead and catch my breath here, let my voice rest for a bit, and open it up to any questions that the audience might have.
You're muted, Christina.
I see it.
There you go.
I have a couple questions. So just to make sure that I'm clear, for the loan for the loan that you're doing, this is a loan, not a grant for
Correct.
business. And you had mentioned some stipulations. We've gotten a couple of questions about sole proprietors and 1099 employees. Would this be an opportunity for either of those?
Yes. The caveat will be, though, is that there's a restriction on paying, owners' salaries. So moving that to the side and parking that over in the parking lot, certainly the other uses of the fund, i.e., rent, utilities, vendor obligations, certainly that's an eligible use. Correct.
So then if the plan is for the ACH to just pay directly into their commitments or their financial obligations that they need to do, would they just give a list then of the people that they need to, and those would all be dispersed at the appropriate times? Or
that is one correct. That is one approach. there's a couple different approaches that I think are going to have to be determined on a case-by-case basis. Obviously, if there are large numbers of vendor obligations that need to be paid out of the proceeds, that may or may not be feasible, right? To have 20 or 30 loaded into the platform. But if it's, a handful up to a half dozen or even a dozen, maybe that's more doable. So I think we'll approach those on a case-by-case basis, see how it works out of the gate with the first batch of loan recipients, and then make adjustments accordingly.
And the loan amounts that they can apply to up to 20,000, they just have to demonstrate what they're going to be using the funds for. So it's not that they have to tie it to anything like payroll or anything like that. They just specify what their needs are for it and then submit the amount that they are requesting.
Well, just for clarification, so we're kind of limiting the window, meaning they've got to at least request $3,000, because if you get below a $3,000 amount, that makes it very challenging to go ahead and put together all the documentation for, a short-term loan, so to speak. So we're really looking at that targeted range between 3,000 and certainly not to exceed 20. Now, in the use of funds themselves, they're going to have to identify where those resources are going to be applied. So let's just say they're asking for $5,000. We want to have them identify where that $5,000 needs to be allocated towards. So if it's, one bucket would be payroll, one bucket could be on the real estate side, another bucket could be, vendor obligations, or it could be, they have to purchase new equipment, machinery to meet purchase orders that are out there. So they need to be able to document that. And then certainly each one of these applications will be put through their own individual review and filtering mechanism. So realize that this is a competitive application process, much like the feds. Not everybody who applies and requests a specific amount will be granted or loaned that specific amount.
And if people have questions, or are there resources that can help them in putting together if they're needing some of that financial clarification? I think you had mentioned before, maybe like the SBDC and things like that might be able to help them with finances.
Yep, excellent. Very good question. So there are a number of support services that are out there that prospective applicants could lean on, and those include, but are not limited to, the small business development centers, the Janesville Innovation Center, Iron Tech down in Beloit. We have our countywide program, the Small Business Entrepreneurial and Development Program that we run countywide. So again, there's a number of resources that folks could lean on, and clearly we're hoping that applicants already have a relationship with an existing lender. So just a little anecdote, talking to the lending community, whether it's been processing the PPP loans or dealing with the economic injury disaster loans that the feds have, those applicants that have an existing and current and fluid relationship with a financial institution have tended to have better results on the request than others. So we would hope that if they already don't have a relationship, perhaps this could help develop or facilitate a relationship down the road.
And if people have questions, the application will go live tomorrow. If they have questions filling out the application, what's the best way for them to do that, or their eligibility or anything like that? Who should they reach out to?
Yeah, the volume of inquiries is a little bit difficult to anticipate. So I think at a minimum, I'm going to recommend email communications versus calling, just because with most of us working remotely and not having the same type of phone bandwidth, it makes sense to send those emails directly. So what we're encouraging, and what will be on the application itself, particularly in the footer, so at the bottom of the application page or tabs, you'll see a reference to our office, the Rock County Planning and Community Development. The email address is very simple. It's planning@co.rock.wi.us. So again, planning@co.rock.wi.us. And so those inquiries will be distributed and answered accordingly in our office. So case in point, there's probably been, a dozen plus that have already come through this week in regards to this particular program. And those have been distributed to staff. I've been the primary staff person responding to those. But as the volume of inquiries potentially exceeds the normal capacity, right, of an individual staff member, those would be distributed among our staff accordingly, and they're armed with the appropriate information to help respond to questions that asked or that surface. Now, the application itself, just like anything else technology-wise, right, we've built a lot of extra redundancy and capacity into the site itself, but stranger things can and do happen. So is it possible that perhaps there might be a glitch that somebody experiences? Perhaps. But I will tell you the infrastructure that we've built for the site has an autosave feature. And what I mean by that is every 30 seconds, the application is saving. So if the individual wants to start and open up a tab and for whatever reason they get interrupted or they have to track down some information, they can be assured that their information is going to be saved and they won't have to kind of restart over. And so again, we've built in what we think are a number of value-added redundancies and extra capacities into the infrastructure itself, but you never can be 100% sure on how things are going to work because stranger things have and do happen on the technology side. But and the nice thing about it is if an individual jumps on the application portal and they want to get familiar with the application before they start filling it out, you can toggle through. So you're not restricted to jump from tab number 1 to tab number 3 until you fill out tab number 1 completely. So, but you are restricted to fill out the information before you could submit. So there's instructions on the top of each tab that basically says, hey, please consider all questions or fields as required. Don't enter symbols, don't enter, percentage numbers, commas, so on and so forth. And again, it allows the user to free flow through there so they can see what type of information they're going to need. The document upload section is very self-explanatory, and there shouldn't be too many questions that we would envision because it's all contemporary language, right? Copy of your W-9, copy of your Wisconsin Department of Revenue business tax registration certificate, so on and so forth. But certainly if there are questions, I had a question this week that popped up about, what do you mean by a copy of your certificate of insurance? So I provided a sample document of what that looked like. It's just a single page that basically documents that the applicant actually has coverage and what those coverages amounts equate to.
Jason, did you have any questions?
No, the only thing that kind of came up, the application process, you said kind of start to finish, they should expect 3 weeks. If there is a denial, is there an appeal process put together, or how does that look? Or if, I assume if there is a denial, there'd be a here's why, and you can reapply kind of a situation, or? So
there are not and will not be any appeal processes. So the decisions that are rendered by the Loan Fund Committee are final. Can applicants come back around the horn with a second or a supplemental application? Sure, there won't be any prohibitions on that, and certainly any denials that are made will have justification or why those decisions weren't favorable.
Yeah, good. Okay. No, I mean, I think we talked about the economic development meeting, and then your summary is great. I hope it is oversubscribed rather quickly. So.
Yeah, and certainly based on other models that have been launched throughout not only Wisconsin, but across the nation, right? Pick your coast, east, west coast, everything in between. The experience to date has been every single program has been oversubscribed to. And so that's part of the reason and justification for the county coming out with a fund of this size and magnitude, i.e. up to $1 million. Certainly, one could argue that it's not enough, and I think there are legitimate justifications for that argument, but it's very difficult to allocate funds and to make funding adjustments and investments of this size, given all the other pressures and dynamics going on. So it is a very sizable investment on behalf of the county and a very clear signal that the county supports and is concerned about the business community and understands that it truly does take a public-private partnership to help our economy moving in the right direction.
Very true. Good to hear.
Thank you for providing all that information, and we will get those links that I presented and the ones that James had mentioned as well out on our resource page, and then also in our businesses group for any businesses that are looking to apply to this program. If you do have questions that Jason or I may be able to answer to, you're welcome to reach out to us as well. Or as James had mentioned, we'll stick the email link in there for further questions that we might not have factored in here. So. Did you want to give any information on the economic impact assessment?
Sure. So what's been happening is there's been a large statewide COVID-19 impact assessment that literally has encouraged companies of all shapes and sizes across the state to participate in. And so during the first 10 days of April, so April 1 through April 10th, there was an assessment that went out that basically asked companies a variety of questions, very high level, but yet detailed, basically taking the pulse to find out how the impact was, affecting their business out of the gate, what type of mitigation strategies were they doing, and more importantly, what did the short-term horizon look like mean, and what was found out of that particular assessment, and this is one of several assessments that will be continually to go out on a statewide basis, is that basically 35% of the businesses that responded to this particular assessment reported that closures were on the horizon if the current pandemic related conditions did not improve within the next 3 months. And again, realize that there's some time valuation here. So basically a third plus of the companies that responded to this basically said, we've got a 3-month window. And if that 3-month window doesn't see any improvement, we're going to have to close our business. And so roughly, 2,550 companies from 60 plus counties throughout the state had responded. Rock in particular had one of the highest response rates. We had about 120 companies respond to the particular survey during this stretch. In the aggregate impacts that those companies had reported were as follows. So in terms of lost business income, $126 million were the figure that was calculated. In terms of inventory losses, 95 million. Direct employee wage and productivity losses were more than 26 million. And then other combined direct as well as indirect economic impacts on the negative side were valued over $404 million. And at the time, roughly 8,800 employees had already been displaced, again, from those roughly 2,550 companies that had responded to this survey. Locally, the responses from Rock pretty much mirrored what you would see at the state level, albeit scaled accordingly. But we had already, our 120 plus companies that had participated in the particular survey at that point already said they were reporting, $1 million in lost business income. Inventory losses were $4 million, and other negative impacts were valued at about $1 million plus. So certainly it underscores the fact that there are challenges out there in the economy. There'll continue to be challenges, and the goal is to go ahead and basically encourage companies to continue to participate in this survey on a monthly basis. That way there's some time series data. And the reason that this data is important is because it enables policymakers to see how A, existing programs are either helping, or B, it encourages policymakers to investigate and or refine programs to adapt and to adjust to what the current needs are out there. So this is a moving target, folks, and it's going to continue to be top of mind for individuals. All individual data is kept confidential. Only aggregate data is released. We're working with the Center for Customized Research and Services through UW Oshkosh. And so they're crunching all the data, collecting all the data, and releasing the reports. The reports can be downloaded on a regional basis or on a countywide basis, including Workforce Development Board regions. So there's a variety of data that's out there. You can compare, contrast. There's enough data to basically go swimming in and drown if you'd like. But it's pretty useful information, and I would imagine that as the data continues to be collected and it rolls on a monthly basis, you're going to see every single one of those numbers that I've referenced rise exponentially. again, in terms of losses, in terms of job counts, I think by a factor of 2, if not 3, if not 4, you're going to continue to see those challenges move forward.
If businesses were not participating in, or they didn't participate in the initial survey, they can still input their information. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yep. And there's a variety of links in the news release that I sent out. One basically is the survey link itself for first-time participants, and then the other link basically is the results to date that, again, you can go in and download and do your own compare and contrasting. Just a little heads up for those that want to get into the actual survey data themselves. Look over on the right-hand side of the screen when you get to that particular landing page and follow the prompts that allows you to basically dive into countywide or regional-based data.
And we do have the press release they sent out linked on our website under our news releases. We will include an e-blast that's going out tomorrow, and then on our resource page too for this survey and the results for anybody that needs it. We did send out the initial survey, but I'm not sure if you are an Evansville business and you did not participate in it yet. It'd be nice to have some additional representation from our community as well. So,
absolutely. So thanks for that.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you needed to give updates on, James?
No, the only other thing is that our Q1 2020 Rock Ready Index, which is our quarterly economic dashboard piece, that report is going to be coming out shortly. The challenge, of course, is the data is going to look pretty rosy because it captures first quarter. And so as you reflect on the last 30 to 45 days, the economy is dramatically shifted. And so the first 2 weeks of kind of the local pandemic impacts here were the last 2 weeks of the end of the quarter. So despite a little bit leaner economic development pipeline, the numbers in the report are going to look good, but of course they don't certainly reflect what's happening right now. So it's kind of tale of two cities, right? You know, you've got the good news and the bad news, and so in the text that will accompany the report that goes out within the next 2 to 3 business days will certainly have that information, on there, and folks can come to their own conclusions. But unemployment numbers are going to show that they're rising, but they're not going to show to the extent that they've risen to right now. So just a few caveats and nuggets to keep in mind as that report goes out.
Well, thank you for coming and giving all this information. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And you are welcome to stay on for the rest of our chat or head out and do whatever else you need to do to get ready for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any updates from the city?
Yeah, the only large one is council met last week, and economic development committee met earlier this week. Or was that last week as well? Time flies, right? They have both preliminarily approved a plan to kind of get some express loans that can be moved through based on our economic development revolving loan fund. So staff is working on some guidelines and forms to get that process up and running. Expect that to be done beginning of next week. And an update will be sent out to everybody for that. But that should allow, similar to the county's program, just some additional way to help. There is still federal and state resources. Some, as we are hearing in the news, might be getting replenished. But just one more tool out there that a business could possibly use if they need it. So look forward for some more information on that coming up soon.
Jen, did you want to give up what's going on with base? You're muted.
There we go. I think I got it. So we have some events that are going on. We have a Show Us Your Quarantine photography contest for kids that has some prizes that we have going on. We're doing a Show Us Your Prom. So having the kids get dressed up and put on their makeup, hair, send us pictures and stuff of what they're doing. We have our scavenger hunt that's going on every Monday. new clues are released. That's going to end the last week in April. We have one more week left. We're working right now to do a Salute to Seniors week, and we're looking at the week of, I believe it's May 18th. So we're working with the school on that. And that's something, if there's anything you guys have ideas or any local businesses want to help with, what we're planning on doing is we're going to send care packages to every senior. It's going to have a letter that's signed from base, the chief of police, and myself, just saying, you know, how proud we are of you. Thank you for keeping to make safe decisions. Congratulations. Some flowers, maybe a piece of candy, and then some tips on mental health that we're going to send to every senior. That week, we're also going to have like some sort of senior scavenger hunt for the seniors to like find yard signs or something like that. We're going to do a show us your senior picture campaign and let us know where you're going. And we're thinking of maybe doing something, some sort of window signs, like put this up in your window to support our seniors. So if anybody else has any other ideas or any ways the business community would like to get involved, please let us know. We're looking for more things to do that week to kind of have it packed to show our appreciation for our seniors.
Have a little blurb or anything that you can send over with the dates of it?
Yep, I'll do that. And then we still are looking for one $50 like family pack of info. And I know I posted this in the chamber group too, that we're basis purchasing. So if there's any local businesses that would have anything, we'd definitely like to support local. Otherwise, we'll probably just go back to one of the other businesses that we have gift certificates from. But like we had a $50 gift pack from Farnsworth Ceramics that we had used. We got a $50 gift certificate from Hanson Electronics, and then we did a $50 to the Grove. So just something that we can buy from local businesses that families can use.
Do you have any, can you give a little bit of what was in some of them, just so people can have ideas of whether they could put it together?
Mm-hmm. So for the Grove and for Hanson's, they're just gift certificates. $50 gift certificates. Okay. But for Farnsworth, they have their ceramics that you can paint. So it was all the ceramics and then paints as well. So for 5, so there's 5 individual ones.
And you guys purchased them, so it's not like the business would be donating.
Nope, we're not looking for any donations. We just want to support local. So we'd like to support any business that has anything that they think could be like families to use.
All right. Did you have any other items that you needed?
Nope, I do not think so.
Okay. So for the chamber, we're going to be extending, I think, our community connections meeting. We'll see how this stay-at-home order, how long this winds up going with everything going on at the state. But I think we're going to keep having these. I'll continue to try to individually invite people. I think that's when we get more people, is when I actually go in and individually invite anybody that I can. But if you guys just want to mark them down on your calendars, that we're doing them at 9 a.m. And I will keep sending out the links and having those available on our Facebook page and in our newsletter. We are doing the restaurant week this week, which has been going really well. I think we have over 50 people that have posted on the post with that they had purchased meals to support the local businesses so far, and we are looking forward to doing a retail week, which we'll be announcing, I think, probably later today. I'm getting the information from the retailers right now for next week, and then I am looking at the following week for doing a self-care type week. So that would include any businesses that would be like salons or mental health, chiropractors, massage, naturopaths, anything like that that wanted to participate in that as well. So we're kind of leaving that a little bit open. So we'll have that coming out. We also are doing a panel discussion with some of our financial planners for next Tuesday, and I'm going to be posting information about that here, where they will be coming in and giving some information about what's going on in the market right now, what people should be doing with their finances, what they're seeing, and be able to answer any questions that people may have. So that's going to be next Tuesday, I believe, at 11 a.m. But we're in that situation and should have more information on that coming here shortly. And then as far as any additional small business loans, we are keeping an eye on what's going on at the federal level to see if there might be more funds released, and we'll continue to update information on that, or if we hear of any other sources of funding for businesses. As always, if you are a business that you're looking for assistance, or if you need something or have questions, please contact Jason or myself. We're here to try to get you the resources that we can, and to support you in any ways that we can. There are a number of opportunities. I know Creekside, Nikki was on last time, but I think she has their community dinner happening next week for Creekside, where they are doing a pay it forward. So normally for the community dinner, they would have charge an admission or ask for donations, but they are looking to just pay it forward and only accepting donations for this community dinner coming up. So if you would go, or if you want to support their organization and their cause, or just be able to get a free dinner for, I believe it's next Tuesday, but we have information about that on our Facebook page as well. I think that's all I had for updates. Did anybody have any other questions or anything that they needed? All right. Well, then I just want to thank you for participating. And if anybody has ideas or businesses have things that they're thinking about or wanting to know if they can partner with or have other potentials, we are trying to facilitate that as well. So contact me, or we have an Evansville Together group that I've been trying to get going on Facebook too, just to kind of brainstorm. So please feel free to reach out and see if there's any other opportunities that we might be missing. Thank you all.